remarks. This will be done by Honorable Blessing Karim.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
So, we want to welcome everyone for being part of this meeting, and we hope that everyone will participate and we'll have a successful and interactive session. Thank you all for coming. Thanks to our national president for gracing this occasion. Thanks to the SG and everyone on the call. Thank you so much. We are grateful. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Blessing Karim Guanjuwon. Thank you so much for that welcome remarks. So we go to introduction of the guest speaker, and this will be done by the Honorable Samuel Babajwa, our coordinator emeritus. Bajwa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. So, my name is Samuel Babajwa. I think my name is not well spelled on the program sheet. The last letter is H. It's actually Samuel Babajwa. Thank you. So let go into it directly. Good evening to everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. Aaron S. Pittman. Aaron is a dedicated chemical engineer and a researcher whose work sits at the exciting intersection of material science, sustainability, and advanced processing engineering. His focus is on solving some of today's most pressing environmental challenges, specifically the recovery of critical and precious metals from industrial waste streams, such as electronic waste and water waste. Aaron earned his bachelor's and master's degree in chemical engineering for Tianjin University, where he first began exploring catalytic memory reactors and nanofiltration memories. Today, he is completing his PhD at the University of Science and Technology of China under the supervision of Professor Yang Kao. His doctoral research involves designing novel porous materials like covalent organic frameworks for the selective and energy efficient extraction of metals such as gold, copper, and scandium. His work is not only highly innovative, but also deeply practical. He combines advanced synthesis methods with rigorous testing under real-world conditions, and his findings have been published in top-tier journals, including chemical engineering journals and coordination chemistry reviews. Beyond the lab, Mr. Pittman has also developed strong leadership and communication skills through coordinating student organizations and even co-founding a small business. In short, Mr. Pittman's career reflects a clear and meaningful mission that we all can adopt to bridge fundamental material science with sustainable engineering solutions that support a circular economy like Liberia and a greener future we all hope for a country like Liberia. Please, with this honor given me to introduce to you our guest speaker tonight, I'd like to ask you to join me with an ovation, whether standing or sitting, or whether clapping or jumping, in welcoming Mr. Aaron S. Pittman our guest speaker. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Guest Speaker.
Thank you so
Welcome,
much,
sir.
Mr. John.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Thank you.
our honorable guest speaker. The floor is yours.
Yes, Mr. Bateman.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate the time. Thank you. So let me see if I can try to share my screen. So if you stop sharing, yeah, okay, yeah. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Okay. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to the Guangzhou leadership on the auspices of our national leadership, that is the Librarian Student Union in China, for giving us this opportunity to be able to share or articulate our ideas to the student body. Yeah, actually, right now, I should be grateful that the librarian student right now in China have so much opportunity. A lot of students here are very much innovative. They just need to grab from the opportunity so we all can learn from one another. So the last time we were here, that was on Thursday. We tried to learn a lot again from the Jinsu student year. They were there. They brought us a very good innovative speaker that taught us about research or academic writing. And they gave us the whole overview of academic writing. So we're just going to keep the ball rolling from there. And today we're going to go deeper in just one subsection of the overview they gave us on Thursday. Today we'll focus more on introduction section. I know somebody will ask why we didn't take maybe the topic, or we went straight, or maybe the abstract, or went straight to the introduction. The introduction section is very important for writing. This is where you start your research, because this is where you do literature review, you do the synthesis of literature. So today in our academic talk, we'll talk about crafting a compelling research introduction with a subtopic, a strategic framework to hook readers and define your own contribution. So today in our conversation, we'll basically look at why the introduction is the make or break moment in your writing. Is very important. And we'll look at a model that we will use tonight to establish a clear writing path in introducing our introduction section. Then from there, we'll go deeper into the model, that is from the trajectory to the niche. Then we will talk about hook and problem statement, wherein we will define some sentences that are very critical in defining or maybe establishing your introduction section. Then we'll also talk about literature synthesis, and on the literature synthesis, we'll try to establish or maybe try to show how you can use the literature to tell a very strategic story. From there, we will also talk about writing with impact. That is language that you need to use in skill or style you need to use in writing your introduction section. We have an interactive section, if the time permit, where we can be able to apply the model. And finally, we'll talk about the Q&A section, where we will have some interactive section. And today our goal is for us to be able to structure our introduction section with a proven logical framework. That is the goal for tonight. And our second goal tonight will be to articulate your research gap and your contribution clearly. And finally, we hope that we can be able to write with confidence for editors, reviewers, and that for readers. So tonight, we hope that we can be able to transform our introduction section from just ordinary background section to compelling strategic argument that captivate your audience. Yeah, so it is our goal tonight that we can be able to achieve part of the academic process in writing a paper, that is the introduction section, using this joining today. So why does the introduction section actually matter? That's the question we should be thinking about tonight. Why do you think we need to really make the introduction section very powerful enough? So if you send your paper, or those that have already published a paper, or those that are in the process of publishing a paper, if you send your paper to a journal, the first place a top journal editor will look at is your abstract in your introduction section. For most journals, you have to design the introduction section so creatively that it can go either on a peer review or the editor lost interest in your work. So for reviewers, a poor introduction section often leads to text rejection. That is, the paper cannot go on a peer review section, right? Because just from the introduction, it's not even motivational. So how can we even send this paper for peer review? It's not possible. So most reviewer or editor look at just from your introduction section, and it give us this note, quote unquote, it is not in the scope. That's what it tells us. Oh, your work is not in the scope of the journal. Of course, it's in the scope sometimes, but we are totally out of our context just from the introduction section. And from somebody that will be reading your paper, they will say, why should I spend my time reading this paper? Just from the introduction section, it's not even motivation. So from the introduction section, if you have a very weak introduction section, the attention of the entire paper is misunderstood just from the introduction section. That's why we should make the introduction our first impression. And for you that is writing the introduction section, this is where you try to crystallize your thinking, right? And provide a clear blueprint that establishes the knowledge or the argument of your entire paper. So this is why your introduction section should be very impressive. This is the first thing people will try to go through in detail. So I want you to remember that the introduction section is not just a background, but it should be a critical argument that you put forth. And also remember that in the introduction section, you either be rejected or probably if your introduction section is very strong enough, you'll be able to move to peer review. If possible, your paper will be published. So the core mission of introduction section is should be able to tell why is the topic very important. And apart from why the topic is important, what this paper is about to address or solve. So that is the core mission of an introduction section. So we will go to the CARS model that we use tonight to be able to establish an introduction section with a clear logic. This model is very, very much important. If you are just beginning to write, you can be able to use this model to be able to establish a clear introduction section. It can be for thesis or for academic papers. The CRS model, the C is just for creating a research space. So this model is very powerful enough that if you use it, you can be able to articulate your idea perfectly within the introduction section. So in this model, we have three key things we'll talk about tonight in depth. And that is for us to establish our trajectory. So in the trajectory, what we need to do is we need to tell why the topic is important, why we in fact want to do this research. So in the trajectory, we should be able to find the importance of the topic, the relevance, and whether this topic is very important at this time for us to discuss. So most of the time, if you're reading journal article, you will see people starting with a sentence, for example, they'll say, recent advances in renewable energy are critical for global sustainability. This is a broad topic because we have global sustainability, a keyword, and we have renewable energy, which is another keyword. It's a very large topic. But in the long run, as you start to establish your trajectory, you start to boil down to a specific point that will lead us to establishing your niche, right? So in the niche, what we look for in the niche, we look for the gap, the limitation, or questions that are already in existing knowledge. This is where we see questions like, for example, this topic is important, but or however. This is where we see people try to deviate or transition, although a lot of work has been done, but or however, more is still needed. For example, he said, however, let us still know about long-term stability on these catalysts on a real-world condition. So definitely it gave us a clue that although a lot of research has been done about catalysis, but for us to be able to apply catalysis in real-world condition is not yet proven. So it's a gap right there. So now we need to go deeper to find a solution to this gap. If you establish a niche, the next thing we need to do is to occupy. You can't tell the problem and you cannot feel the problem. So this is where we present our research, right? We state questions or problem, hypotheses or findings. And we also highlight our own contribution here in this part. So for example, you say, this is where you see sentences, for example, this study developed a novel methodology that enhanced catalysis durability by 300%. So you see, just by saying this sentence or using these 3 sentences, we give a clear idea how to articulate from establishing your trajectory to occupying the niche. And to now we'll use this model, this 3 model, to go deeper and establish a clear introduction section. So if you look at this model, it's like a funnel, right? So we want to start with a broad topic, then we go to where we can occupy or we'll see the limitation or we'll be able to answer or ask questions. And after we see the gap or the limitation, we should be able to fill this limitation. We should be able to tell, okay, this is the solution we bring to the table. So you should be able to use this model to guide reader to your research gap and that of what you have done, your contribution. So let's dive deeper a little bit in move 1, that is establishing a trajectory. So the goal of this move is to contextualize your study and show the significance of the research area. So basically, like I said from the beginning, you want to start very broad, right? You want to start with a topic that is very broad, then later you can try to narrow the topic down to your own specified research direction. So basically, you want to establish the importance, the overall importance of your research field or the research area. For example, you say research advances in renewable energy are critical for achieving global sustainability goal. This is a very big topic, like we said in the beginning, right? It's a very big topic, but how can we narrow down this topic to a particular focus? This is where we come in with selective literature review. We'll do literature synthesis, right? I said selective because I don't want you to do literature review that are not so much important to the field you're about to even go through. So you should focus on fundamental papers that can be able to define the field you are about to study or the research direction you are about to go through or the questions you are about to answer. So don't just take any paper and say, okay, since I now probably try to generalize my topic, let me just go do reading. One way you could do it, you go in that particular field, you can go to the top journals. You start to read the top journals and you can see a clear articulation. Sometimes you can even know how to write a perfect introduction just by reading the top journals in your field, because they would be able to structure a very good introduction section for you. Then after synthesizing literature, you now start to dissect the literature section. This is where we use verbal samples. It's very important. Most of the time when you're reading papers, you see people use sentences like, a significant body of research have examined XXXX, but still, literature is known by Y or Z. Here we'll talk in move 2, establishing the gap. So you use these verbal samples to transition your idea or to be able to synthesize or explain the literature synthesis that you have done so far. So I want you to avoid some common pitfall when you're trying to establish your trajectory. Avoid writing mini dissertation. Dissertation is different. In the dissertation writing, maybe if we have time, we'll talk. The introduction section is way too different from that of your introduction section for a journal article. One of the key difference could be the length, right? If you're writing a dissertation or thesis, your introduction section is longer than if you're writing an introduction section for that of a journal publication. So if you're writing for journal publication, just make it very brief, direct to the point so that people can be able to read it and go ahead reading your entire paper. Not just finish reading your introduction section, they're already tired to even go to the result, the main part. Yeah. So by the end of move 1, people that are reading your paper already should already know why the topic is important. And they should already be able to establish a landscape of their entire paper. So if a researcher reads your paper and just from the move 1, they cannot tell the importance of your topic, they will lose interest in reading the entire paper. So we move deeper After we know how to establish or maybe idea on establishing the trajectory, that is generalize the entire topic, from the general perspective, we move to the niche. Though you start general, now we have to find problem, we have to find gap. So the goal of the niche is to convince the reader there are unsolved issues your research addresses. This is where you see what we know already, that is the literature that we have read, what we know and what we don't know from the literature. So we'll use 4 key pillars that we can use to establish a niche. So in the niche, there are 4 ways you see somebody will try to show there is a problem still in existing knowledge or literature. For example, they can counterclaim the work that have already been done, right? They will try to challenge the existing assumption or findings that have already been done. For example, they say, however, Smith's findings on Y have been challenged by recent study. This is a niche because Smith's work, is not yet complete. So somebody else have counter challenge this work, and you can counter challenge somebody's work, then you cannot show why. So because you challenge it, it means you have to show solution to it. So this is a way of finding or establishing a niche. That is a gap right there. Smith's work is not yet complete. So somebody will challenge it. Although Smith did Y, but still there is something missing in the Y value that we got. And the second way we try to establish the niche is for us to create or identify research gap. This is where you point out things that are missing in the current literature, right? So for example, you use sentences like, why much is known about X, but little is still known about Y. Because through your literature synthesis in establishing your trajectory in move 1, you notice that a lot of papers talk about X. But in studying X, you also need Y variable to complete X study. But in your literature synthesis, you notice that there are not much paper on Y. So you come up with this gap that though we know a lot about X, but in research, there is still limitation on the Y variable. So this is another way for you to establish or to create a niche. The third way is to raise questions in the existing literature. After synthesizing your literature, you can come up with questions that have been unsolved. Because based on your reading, you notice that a lot of questions are yet to be solved, right? This is where you come up with, say, for example, it remains unclear whether the effect it remains unclear whether this effect hold in real world context. For example, I gave an example in the first slide, catalysis in real world context. So from that example, I can come up with a question, although a lot of catalysis or catalyst work have been done, but still for their application in the real world setting, it's still not known. There's still limitation here. So you come up with questions. So this is another way you can establish the niche. The fourth way for us to establish a niche is to continue with your research. Like for example, right, you already did your current research and you study X in your current research. So now that same research or maybe the same methodology, you want to use it to continue studying Y, right? So this is where people, most of the time you say building on our previous work, we investigate this next step. So building on the previous work, you can also be able to continue your study. Yeah, but from move 1 to move 3, or from step 1 to step 3 in establishing your niche is very important. It's most common. Move 4 is not that, but most of the papers nowadays, people write one paper and before you look from that paper, they just continue studying different things just from that same paper. So in establishing the niche, that is your gap, it should be very meaningful. Don't just establish a gap that is well known or a gap that the research community don't have significance or importance for. That means not a lot of people will be able to read your paper, right? So before you try to establish the gap, you should ask yourself this question. Will the academic community care about filling this gap? Is it important to the society that I'm about to do this? Is this very important? If you can be able to answer that question, you can be able to continue to the next move, that is occupying the niche. So in the first move, we talk about establishing your research area. establishing the trajectory, generalizing the topic. In the second move, we talk about the gap. Now that we know from the gap, we can just find a gap and we'll leave it open. No, we can now occupy this gap, fill in the gap. And we can use 5 different methods to fill in the gap. So the importance of occupying a gap is to present solutions and the value of the work that you're about to do. Yeah. So one of the ways we can do that is to state the purpose of the work you're about to do. Right? Be direct. Don't use passive voice. We'll come to some sentences that are very important. Use active voice. We investigate. This study investigate. This study aim the purpose of this paper. Direct, active voice you use in occupying your niche. Don't say an investigation was done. No, this study investigate the purpose of this paper. Yeah. So these are phrases we use in establishing or occupying our niche. So the second way for us to occupy the niche is to list questions that we've already established in move 2. So for example, we came up with questions. Maybe we read some papers and we're still not satisfied about a variable concerning y and x. So we raise some questions or hypotheses that we're about to occupy here now in the niche. So this question can be occupied here. We provide answers in here. For example, we say, now we have studied y detail in depth and our findings indicate you continue with your explanation there. Another way to occupy the niche is to what? Preview key findings. So we find that based on our study on y, we found that y variable increases proportionally with x variable, right? But in most of the sciences, only for the engineering, most of the engineering, when I read in paper, I find it in our study, we find that maybe, for example, you see the concentration based on the concentration, we find that the absorption efficiency is by this %. Yeah. But for some of the fields, not actually, people don't announce the result, they just give what they did, and you can just continue writing your next section. So in occupying your niche, also, the fourth way to do it, you can also highlight your contribution. Is it the synthesis that is new? Is it the data that is new, or the methodology, or the theory? Or is it the application? Make sure you clearly state your own contribution. It's very important. If you state your contribution, somebody will, oh yeah, I think it is the data. It's the data collection that is new. Oh no, it's the theory section that is new here, because you make sure you highlight that in your contribution section. So the last part, or the fifth point, is for you to outline the structure. This one is not actually used in a paper. It's mostly used in dissertation, wherein you say in chapter 5 we did this, in chapter 4 we did this, chapter 5 we did, just like that. So you try to give the structure of your thesis when you're writing, but it's not, most of the time it's not used in journal writing style. People don't give the or of the paper, or maybe we did this. No, this part is optional for writing or research paper. So this is the 5 different ways, or maybe we can say the 4 different ways we can be able to occupy the niche, which is very important. So by the end of move 3, if somebody is reading your introduction section, they should already be able to know exactly what you did in your research. They should know why you did that, and they should also know what was found. So this is very important. So now that we established the 3 different moves to establish a clear or articulate or introduction section, we will now be able to introduce some sentences that are used in opening your introduction. This is very important. The sentences we use in opening your introduction is very important to capture your reader attention. For example, 4 sentences or 4 ways we use to capture reader attention. First, people start with provocative questions, right? You come up with a question that keep people puzzling. Why? What is going on? Is it, for example, start with curious question that people want to know more about. So the first way you could do it is you say, What if the key to climate change adaptation lies in Asian agricultural practices? What Asian agricultural practices? What is this saying? And you just ask a question. Yeah, in generalizing your own topic. People want to know why. People want to know the answer to this. So you call reader attention just by opening or using a very good opening sentence. Or another way you could do it is state some fact, right? You can come up, based on your literature sentences already, you can come up with some fact in the literature. For example, you say over 40% of published clinical trials fail to clearly state their primary research question. This is very important. So people, 40%, the number is too high. So people want to know why 40% of the published people can state a clinical trial. Another way we can use or sentences that are very important in opening your introduction section is to start with dynamic questions that keep people puzzling, right? Present some arguments that are already there. For example, it said, despite increase in global connectivity, report on social isolation are at all-time high. What? Reports still say that isolation is still high despite on global connectivity. People want to know. They want to know deeper. If you start with sentences like that, they want to read, they want to know the next sentence. They want to know what you say in the next sentence. And the fourth way, or the fourth kind of way you can open your own introduction section, is to directly state the importance of that fee and why it matters. For example, you can say, the replication crisis poses a fundamental challenge to the credibility of social sciences. To replace or maybe to do the same experiment X did right now is difficult. People want to say, yeah, I think so too. But why? Why is that like this? Did he give any solution? Did he tell maybe why? People want to know more. So it's good you start with clear opening that can capture the reader attention. It's very important. Most of the time, if you're reading journal article, you see this opening in almost all of the papers or in our field. You will see them, we will meet them. Yeah, they use it. It's not because they want to use it. They know that it will be able to captivate the reader attention. So you should avoid weak opening. For example, in recent years, there has been a lot of interest in what? It's too vague, it's weak. People don't have interest in recent. No, be direct, be straight. Yeah, so it's very good that we start our own introduction with a clear opening that can be able to capture more reader attention. So in synthesizing the literature, like we started, the literature section should be able to tell a story. You shouldn't just name or maybe just put author name down, X did this, Y did this, Q did this. No, explain what they did. If you can be able to synthesize the literature very well, you can lead to a direct gap. Because if, for example, if you read maybe 50 papers that you want to use or maybe more to write your own paper, right? Based on the literature synthesis, you can be able to find a gap connecting these 50 papers. For example, let's see how somebody else tell a very good literature synthesis. They say, other work by Smith established the framework of X, while Jones, 2010, expand it to include Y. This line of inquiry has consistently overlooked the role of Z. This is a gap right here. So because they overlook Z, particularly, Lee also talked about it. So you see, from just synthesizing the literature, what have already been done, you can find what is not known in the literature. So if you can be able to do your literature synthesis well, you can lead directly to your niche. That is the gap that is within the existing literature. So if you do a very poor literature synthesis, it's hard for you to find a gap. For example, somebody put this summary together, right? They said Jones studied X. We don't know what is X, but he studied X. So now Smith studied X, Jones did a study 2 on Y. Lee to continue with Z. There is nothing, there is no relationship. So it's hard for you to find the research gap in this kind of literature synthesis. But if you do a very good literature synthesis, you can have a good compelling story that can lead to a research gap. So you as the writer, you are to guide those that are reading your introduction section to a clear research gap, the significance, and how you fill that research gap. That is the role of you. So one way we should be able to synthesize the literature that will lead to a gap. In this gap, we should be able to fill it. That's why we talk about the three moves. We establish. From there, after establishing, you find a niche. From the niche, you go to a occupation. You occupy your niche. This is very important. So if you do a very good literature synthesis, you can use some impactful languages that can help you write perfectly in your literature synthesis. Most of the time, if you're reading in your journal, in the top journal of your field, you'll see most of these sentences, the starting, you see them in the same way. So it's good that we use strong active voice. I said that from the beginning, right? It's good we use strong active voice to be able to articulate what we have done clearly. For example, we did a study, right? We say, this study investigates the effect of temperature on catalyst stability. You see what the study already did. Then somebody gave you the same study, but it said an investigation was conducted to examine the effect of temperature. An investigation, my friend? No, it's too weak. Make sure you be direct, right? Be strong with your argument. If you say you're not too clear, or the sentence is too, you can use this, but not here. There are places you can put an investigation, but at this point, use this study, investigate this. Or the aim of this paper is this. It's very important. So some languages that you use in your introduction section also, if you are not clear about a result, you can use these languages. For example, these phrases are very important. You can say, these results suggest, this result indicate, or perhaps, because the point is, let's say, for example, you did characterization, right? You did from your XRD down to the BET, and you summarize the explanation of this characterization. At the end, to close this summary, the summary of your explanation on the characterization, you can say, these results suggest that the temperature stability at 500 is optimal for, maybe you can say thermoconductivity, you can just, based on what you're doing. So that alone summarize what you have already explained in the characterization result. Because you're giving people the notion that, okay, yeah, something was done. And based on your observation, these results suggest that yet the temperature at 700 is the optimal temperature for us to use. So we talk about the three moves, and some of the phrases that are widely or are used in establishing them. For example, if you want to establish your trajectory, you can start, for example, a critical issue. You start critical issue already in the paper. Maybe you have read, maybe critical issue. It can be in medicine, it can be in social science, it can be engineering. You can still find a gap. Critical issue in X. Or extensive research have already been done in Y. Maybe there is none in Z. Or it is widely recognized that X is known, but there is little on Y. These are phrases that you try to use in the trajectory to be able to generalize, because we talk about in the trajectory, we generalize the research topic, the importance of it. Then in the niche, this is where you see, however, limitation, right? Though a lot of work have been done, but however, there is still limitation in this approach. In the niche, you always see, however, but, yeah. Despite emphasis on Y, there is less attention on P. This is a gap. So in the niche, we use however most of the time, why, but, limitation, the gap. And phrases for the niche, to occupy the niche, you say, this study, this study aimed to, or to address this gap, we did this. Or therefore, the objective of this paper is to this. You just you go direct, be straight to the point. Yeah. So one of the key principles in establishing language for impact in your writing, you should be precise, because the language you use, it can make somebody think about who is writing, right? So based on the languages that you use in your writing, you can know, okay, this person have expertise in this field or no. This person, no, I think he's not, he's still, practicing. So your language can shape people's perception about the person that wrote the paper. So make sure that you use precise, active, and professional languages that are already used in articulating or general research or topic. So make sure you use precise, it should be active, and they should also be professional languages. So I come up with this example. If you are still listening, probably you can look at the two. I have A and B here, and you just write A in the box if A is a very strong introduction, or you write B in the box if B is a strong introduction. For example, we have here in recent years, there has been a lot of interest in renewable energy in A. That's the beginning of A. And you can look at B. I want to be looking at the messages that will be coming because I want to see if we were actually following. This part is just for us to know what we have been doing so far. So if you send the message, I will see. So based on these two examples, which introduction actually articulate or maybe capture your own attention? Wow. There are still people here. You can just send A in the text box. I'll be able to see it. A and B, which introduction section here capture your attention? Okay, we'll continue. Probably we are sleeping right now. So in A and B, we see that.
Sorry for the interruption, but if you check the chat box, people have responded. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Yes. Definitely. 100%. I think we capture what we really talking tonight. So if you look at between A and that of B, you see a significant difference. A just tried to tell something. In recent years, there has been a lot of interest in renewable energy. Really, it's too vague. Even the opening is not strong enough. But if you look at the way B tried to structure his introduction section, you can see that he used the 3 different moves to establish the whole introduction section. For example, we can go through it. The global transition of renewable energy require photovoltaic system with efficiency exceeding 25%. That is your trajectory, the generalization. You generalize the topic right there. However, that's a niche. It comes straight to your mind. However, current silicon-based technology face fundamental stability limitation on a UV exposure. That is the niche, the problem that is still within the study. Now you go straight to occupying it. This study developed a novel Povitsky silicon tandem architecture that achieved 28%. Because if you look at from the first trajectory to exceed 25% is difficult. Now this study have exceeded 25 and went to 28. So that's his contribution. He have added 3%, which will now be the highest so far. So from B, you can see that the person articulated well from just the trajectory. He went straight to the niche and he went to occupying the niche. He used the model effectively. So we can be able to use this model to be able to structure our own introduction section very well. So from B, you can see that you can identify the 3 moves. You can also see the gap clearly, and you see that they fill in the gap. But for in A, you don't even see the gap. You see, yeah, he started with a general, but it's not even strong. The opening sentence is not even strong. It's too weak. Yeah. So this is how we try to structure our introduction section so that people can be able to clearly understand what you have done. So thank you for your contribution in the chat box. We will just move forward. This one, if maybe the permission allow us, maybe I will send this PPT or I can just send this page. You can use this page by yourself to write your own introduction. It's very, you don't even have to start. If you see this example that I gave, I didn't write whole paper here. I just 1, 2, 3 sentences that I use. It clearly states what we have been talking about. You can use the same idea, 1 or 2 sentences. You can start. My trajectory will be, for example, you just want 1 or 2 sentences, you lay it down. Then you say, oh, based on this, a gap, 1 or 2 sentences, you lay it down. Then you say, how can I fill in this gap? You put your sentence. From there, if you continue doing this, in no time, you can be able to use this model to write effectively. So before you submit your own introduction section, you should make sure you check with this checklist to see whether your introduction section meet all of these requirements. If not, you should go back and try to strengthen that part that is weak enough. For example, open with compelling hook. We'll talk about sentences. Don't start vague. In recent years, a lot of research has been, over 40% of paper published have failed to show clinical trial. That's a very compelling hook to start with. Who said that? Then from there, you should also check, clearly establish the topic significance, the importance. If your introduction section doesn't show this part, go back and straighten it, or else it will just be rejected if you're sending it for publication. Make sure you state the significance. And you should also check, did I synthesize the literature well? Not just any literature. Did I synthesize it well? For example, I didn't just let John, Peter, no. Did I explain what they did? Because like I said, if you synthesize it well, you can lead directly to your research gap. Then the next thing you should be able to check is state clearly the meaningful gap. Does the paper state clearly the meaningful gap? Because if not, go back and strengthen it. Go back and strengthen it. Then from there, you also check the questions. Did I pose or did I state research questions? If you do, did I answer them? If not, go back and strengthen that part. Because you want to avoid desk rejection. At least your paper should go on a review. Yeah. Did I announce my funding? Did I tell? Although some fields you can't, but some in the sciences, most of the sciences, you have to tell. Right? Did I tell my finding? Did I show my own contribution? Did I indicate what this paper contribute? If not, go instead. Maybe sometimes you over just 1 or 2 sentences and you are done. Did I use precise, active, and professional languages? Did I? Because from your language you use, people that are reading your paper will know whether you have expertise in this paper or in this field, or you are just coming, JJC. So that's why if you even send your paper to top or journal, assume from, this guy is JJC, he's just coming, but he's just trying some hard luck. Even if you want to try hard luck, trust me, use precise, active, and professional language. People will know that although he's just coming, but he has synthesized the literature well, and he has been seasoned with the languages or the words or the papers he has been reading to be able to articulate his own research very well. Although it's JJC, but the JJC is very strong. Then the final one, did I flow logically from the general, where you say you start from establishing your trajectory, then you go to the niche, and you go to how you occupy the niche. Did I do that? If yes, all of them, the checkbox are okay, you can say, now I'm satisfied to submit my paper. Yeah. Sometimes if you do it by yourself, you see everything is okay, you can say, okay, I'm satisfied. But to convince yourself more, you can give it to your colleague. Say, bro, just read that introduction section for me, and maybe look at the checklist and see if, they are hinting hints, whether, yeah, we're making some sense. You know, sometimes we writing a paper, we don't see the mistake, but that's why the people have to go on a review before it being published. Because those that will be reading your paper, they can see some of the lapses of the paper. So tonight, the key takeaway in our presentation, I want us to remember that the introduction section is a very critical argument area that you need to establish your own research field, the importance of it. Because if you cannot establish a very good or strategic argument, that means you lose reader before even they go to the research section. Then use the CRS model, that is the trajectory, the niche, and you occupy the niche. Use this 3 points to be able to articulate your whole introduction section well. Then make sure you state the gap and your contribution. This is very critical for some journals. If they don't even see it, they don't even care what this paper contribute, what is the new work, or what is the findings. You have to state that. Make sure, even if that 1 or 2 sentences of your contribution, it should be there. We'll talk about that. Is the synthesis section that is new? Is it the application? Is it the methodology that you, or is it the theory? Make sure you state it, that people know, like the reader know that, okay, this work brought something new to the scholarly community. Yeah, then like we said in the last slide, make sure you use real professional sentences that can be able to convince your reader about who is writing this paper. So some recommended resources you can use. Academic writing for graduate students is very good. You can, if you have problem downloading and finding, just contact. We'll be able to find one for you and we can share. It's a very good place to start your writing career. Yeah. And you can also look at your library at your school. Is very, very good. If you go to the library, you will find half of what you're doing is there. The books are there, even papers. You can even teach you how to download papers to carry on your own research. Yeah, the library, both online and the library in your school, the in-person library, is very important. Yeah, you can find all the papers right now you're working on, most especially those that will be working on topic that will be related to Liberia. You can just show a case study, maybe that related to countries that are not within Liberia or countries apart from Liberia, but they have similar, geographical location. Maybe you can say Nigeria, the Nigerians are really writing. So if you go to the library, you can find good papers that can help you write. And also one of the best way that I said in the beginning, you should be able to read journals articles that are within your field, right? Top journal articles that are within your field. It can help you a lot. Just by reading them alone, you can be able to grab insight on writing. Because if you see the way this according the old season hands, the way the season is soup for you. If you see it, you say, yeah, this guy wrote the paper well. You can learn from that, and you too, you can be able to articulate your own idea or your own introduction section very well. So again, I want to say thank you to our leadership and thank you to our overall leadership. That is the Liberian Student Union in China. Actually appreciate this offer to share my own idea. And you can reach out just in case if you have questions or some feedback, and we can be able to discuss in detail. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much to our honorable speaker. I guess we learned a lot from your presentation, and I know from here we'll be able to write very good introduction session of our research work. So thank you so much once again, and we are happy that you are here, and we are grateful that you are sharing your knowledge with us. So can you please stop sharing so that I will get the agenda? Okay, is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, So at this time, we will move
Yes.
straight to question and answer part, and this will be done by the participant, or let's say the audience. So you can now ask your questions if you have, and our honorable speaker will respond to you. So each person will have 2 minutes. 2 minutes is okay to ask your question. So you put your hand up and then we'll recognize you. Aaron, please let me know if you see anyone hands up.
Oh, okay.
Any question? So Aaron, somebody is saying you shouldn't forget to share the PPT within the group chat.
Okay. Sure. So I will share the PPT with you, and you can be able to maybe share with the others.
Okay. So we don't have question. No question for the honorable mayor, honorable speaker. Okay, so if no question, we move to the 6th item, which is vote of thanks, and this will be done by me. So I want to take this time to say thank you to everyone who left their busy schedule in attending our program. We are grateful. Thanks for gracing this important program. Your presence here means a lot to us, and we appreciate the fact that you came. Thanks to our national president, and thanks to everyone who came as well. So,
Wait, before you go, I think somebody asked a question in the group, and that is Chris,
okay.
right? Oh, okay. So basically, Chris, like I said in the beginning of this presentation today, we just try to give a clear, in-depth analysis on how to write the introduction section. So like our leader said, this is a whole workshop period. So we hope, because we want to be able to write the whole paper, right? So today we just start with the introduction section, but we're going to also talk about how to actually select a very suitable topic, right? From the topic, we'll talk about the abstract, how to formulate or write effective abstract. Then we go to, how you can be able to turn your data you collect. For example, you put 25 milligram of H2SO4, how you can be able to turn that explanation from just your laboratory to a clear articulation on writing your experimental section. Then we'll talk about the result, how to actually explain your result well. So today we just try to focus on the introduction. So hopefully in subsequent time to come, we can talk about the analysis more in depth when it comes to data. And I hope we can all continue this process, and I'm sure we can gain something at the end of the day. So yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we continue. Thanks to everyone. So at this time, let me give the floor to our national president to say a word or two for us before we leave. Honorable.
Yeah,
welcome.
to the peace-loving people of Guangdong, Guangzhou, and all of the Johor, Shenzhen, and all the other places there in Guangdong. Thank you so much to our hardworking city president and our hardworking coordinator. Thank you for organizing this program. To all of the scholars that joined, whatever you learn here is not a waste, and every information that you acquire might be used one day It might not just be for you, but you might also help your friends, your family that might be going through the same thing. So it's not a mistake you've been here tonight. And we are grateful for the speaker. I know he was here on yesterday night discussing social issue. Today is here discussing academic issue. So trying to balance the equation, you know. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And it's good that you are with powerful people there in Guangzhou. And I'm sure they are, they are doing a good job for you.
Of
Thank
course,
you all
yeah.
so much. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate from the NECN and the LSUIC as a whole. We really appreciate this from Guangdong. It's, you know, from the last program you had to this one, we really, really appreciate this involvement of Guangdong under this leadership. And we look forward to more and also seeing all of you in person in the coming days or coming months. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks to our honorable president. We are grateful. Thanks for the words of encouragement. We will have another section of this research program again, and we hope that we have more people attending. We are grateful that we have about 16 persons on the call. We didn't know that we will reach that far, but we are grateful tonight. So thanks to everyone that joined again, and we hope to see you in our next session with our honorable speaker. So at this time, we move to our last item on our program sheet, and this is the closing prayer, and this will be done by Daniel Do. If you are still there, can you please pray for us so that we will leave?
In Jesus' wonderful name,
Amen.
let us all bow. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we say thank you for this time. We say thank you for bringing us once again together, not by our own strength, not by our own might. We say thank you for the knowledge that was shared from our brother tonight. We ask that you will help us and will understand and do a great impact. We say thank you to all the leaders. We say thank you for knowledge, understanding that you are giving each and every one of us. As we have on the education journey, you have the power, you have the authority for your presence to continue to lead us. As we're about to leave this meeting, we're not leaving your presence. We'll say your presence should abide with each and every one of us. We thank you now forever in Jesus' mighty name.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. This was powerful.
Oh, powerful prayer.
Yeah, this was really powerful.